How's it going, guys? What I wanted to do in this video is actually take you through just a little bit more of the LCT programming, logic connection tool or something like that. I think is the algorithm in it. If you have done very much work in Metasys, you should be familiar with this programming or this style of programming. If you have not, this is just a little bit further demonstration of what it is and how to use it. So what we're going to be doing is actually going through a couple of objects, creating a few objects, and also doing some math using the tool. So we have currently got the folder where we are going to put this highlighted over on our tree. So the first thing that we will do is to go up to our menu up top, select insert, and what I want is a control system. This is the object that we're going to be adding. I select that. It's going to take the system just a moment, and it will populate here with the folder already highlighted as far as where we're going to put it. So you can select a different folder just depending on what you're doing. I like to go ahead and highlight it prior to creating an object. Now that that is selected, I'm just going to hit next, and this is where we will give it a name, and I strongly recommend that you name this in relation to what it's going to be doing. You know, I have seen times to where different systems, people would get on and just leave default names for things, and then if you're having to go back through and do any troubleshooting, it makes it much more challenging to do. So what we're going to be doing on this, I'm going to be calling this hourly calculation. And that's exactly what this system is going to be doing. So now I'm going to hit next. I'm going to hit, this is just a configuration screen. There's nothing in here that I want to change. I hit next again. This is just a summary screen, and I'm going to hit finish. And of course I could add a trend and all that stuff to that, but we're not going to be doing any of that. Okay, now then we have created our object. You can see it here on the left inside our folder. The next thing that we're going to do is to pull it into our window. And this is a bare bones control system out of the box. You can see here across the top we have a few options. You also have a zoom option that you'll see a little more of here shortly. The first thing we need to do inside here is we're going to hit the edit button. Okay, and what we have here now is our list of tools that we can use. We have a math function, all different kinds of mathematics, things like that. A Boolean function, to where if any of you guys are familiar with a lot of your logic, you know, and or XOR latch gates, not those type of things. Statistical, of course, we can do average, max, and minimum. Selector, this is another useful tool. Basically, it's like a transmission. You know, you'll have an input here, and then you'll have, it will change between one state and another to select which output actually passes through it. Our control block, we have an equal, we have our greater and less than, and that type of thing. Sequence block, psychology or psycho. Of course, you have more logic here depending on what you are going to be doing within your system. Attributes, this is one you're going to become very familiar with because this is what you will be using to actually pull in inputs and link to outputs. Constant is another block that you will be using some. You know, especially if you have to have constant values, that sort of thing inside your logic. Calculation, you're going to see here span and rate limiter. All right, that's something depending on what you're doing. If you want to slow the rate down, that's what you're going to be using this for. The span block, of course, I'm sure you're familiar with the span block. You know, a range of output based upon a range of input. And then, of course, timing. You have a time. You have a timer, which your timer can be quite a few things. If you check out some of my other videos, on LCT, you will actually see where I have used those and give just a little bit more of an explanation about them, as well as delay. And now that's something that I've also used in other videos, and we're going to be using it in this one. What we're basically going to be doing in this particular block is using this logic to send the values from a power meter into an analog value, and we're using it for storing some historic data. Yes, we can use trends for this type of thing, but the way we are doing it, we're very data analytical on a lot of what we're doing, especially when it comes to our utilities. We are not looking for averages. We are looking for actual usages, and that is something that just having a trend on a power meter will give you an average, but you can have an average high when the meter is reading high during a specific amount of time when the trend is capturing. You can also have it read low, and just depending on how it captures. And what we are wanting to do is just get the actual amount used. Okay, but doing this, you can actually use this type of thing for a lot of other tools, a lot of other ways of capturing information and even control. For example, one of the blocks that we're going to be using for this is the time block. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab that, and I'm going to pull it out into my panel here. Now, what the time block is basically just what it says. It is going to take the system time and output it. Okay, you've got hours, minutes, years, months, days, and it just keeps going. Whatever the system time is, that's what this block is going to put out. All right, and that can be used for a lot of things. That can be used depending on how you set your system up. If you are doing a automatic rotation of pumps or chillers or any kind of a device, that's where this block can come into play. All right, if you want to rotate pumps every month, say you have 2 pumps within your system, and you want to change that lead pump once a month or once every couple of weeks or whatever, that's what you can do in this system using this type of a block. You can do it with scheduling also, and I've done it many times with scheduling, but this is another way here. Okay, now that we have our time block out here, the other thing that I want to use is the delay block. So I'm going to grab that and also pull it into my window, and I'm just going to set it there for now. Okay, now our constant, I'm going to be grabbing one of these. Since it's going to be an analog value that I'm going to be doing some comparison with, I'm just going to double click here, and inside here, once you grab that object and drag it in, you can actually put a value, a hard value in of whatever you want. Since this is going to be used as a differential, I'm just going to put it to 0. Since this is going to be used as a differential, I'm just going to put it to 0. You can select the units or just whatever. I'm not going to select units on this, it's unnecessary. So I'm just going to leave that there. Okay, now coming on up to our attributes tab, as I'd mentioned earlier, this is what you're going to be using quite a bit of. Okay, this is our input reference, this is our output reference. If I wanted to tie a point to a physical input or a physical output, this is what I'm going to be using. All right, the 3 meters that I have over here, these pulse meters, I am going to be grabbing them and pulling them into my window. If I just highlight the first one, and then I'm going to press my control button and hold it, and then I'm just going to grab my other 2 just like that. Okay, now I'm going to leave those highlighted, and then I'm going to come over to my window here. I'm going to click and hold my mouse button on the input reference and then drag it into the window just like this. And once I release it, you can see that it's going to take it just a minute, and then it is actually going to populate these meters into the control system. you can see here that it says meter active. That is what it is currently doing or looking at. Now, if you know inside your objects, you do have different attributes that you can look at, and that's exactly what we're going to do in here. We're actually going to be changing this. If I double click into this, you're going to see it give me this attribute reference. Okay, if I wanted to change this input or whatever, I could do that by hitting this button here, and it would bring up my tree to where I could select a different point, but that's not what we're going to be doing. You can see here the attribute that is currently selected is meter active, which is what it displayed earlier. I do not want meter active. What I want is previous consumption. Okay, you have all of these different types here that you can select depending on what you're going to be doing with this particular object. Many of your objects out there will give you the ability to do this. Okay, I can go rate units, rate limits, that sort of thing, if I'm depending on what I want to look at. For this particular meter, what I want is previous consumption. Okay, if you're not sure what that previous consumption is, I have got a video series on my channel to where I talk a little bit more about power meters. Go and check that out, and I actually dig into that a little bit. So now I'm going to hit my OK button, and you're going to see that change to previous consumption. I'm going to be doing the same on these other two. Do it the same way. I just double click, scroll down, previous consumption, and again for the third one, select previous consumption, and here we go. All right, I still am going to need another part of those meters pulled in. So I still have these highlighted here, and there's something that I want to tell those meters to do. And of course, if I'm going to be using something to tell something what to do, I have got to use an output reference. So again, I'm going to leave these highlighted. I'm going to grab my output reference, click and hold, drag it out into my window, and I'm going to place it over here. Okay, when I release, you're going to see it come up similar to the way that you did on the others. It's going to come up as meter active. If I wanted to turn these meters on and off, I could use that meter active, but that is not what we are wanting to do with this. Again, I'm going to double click in here. It's going to take it just a minute, and it's going to pop up my attribute reference, and I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger where you can see, and it's just like what we've seen before, only this is an output reference. Okay, instead of using the meter active, I want the meter reset. Okay, I can actually command these various things here. I could write to the pulse consumption, I could write to some of these things within this system, but the reset is what I want to use. Okay, so I just highlight that, I hit OK, go to the next one, grab it also. Takes it just a minute to populate that window. And here we go. Go down, select reset, hit OK. I'm going to grab this one. And again, it takes it just a minute. Sometimes my computer's wanting to be a little bit slow. Select reset, hit OK. I also want to take these values that are down here, and I want to do something with them. Okay, these three values, there's a reason I'm getting them, so I want to do something with them. These are some analog values that I had created previously. So I am going to highlight each of them, and since I want a place to put that previous consumption, I'm going to grab my output reference once I have these highlighted and drag that out into my panel here, and it is going to give me the three outputs for these analog values. Okay, there's no need for me to change anything in these. That present value is exactly what I want it to be. Okay, and you can see that I've got these in order. I created them in order so I could deliberately do this to make it look a little nice and neat. Now then, I'm simply going to hover right here to the point of this output, and you can kind of see how the mouse changes to a magic wand. All right, so once it does that, I'm going to click my mouse once, and then I'm going to drag it over to the output. All right, just like that. And you can see it change to that magic wand again. I'm going to click it, and it's going to give me this priority connection window. You can set your different priorities here If you go back and watch some of the other videos that I've done on other things, you'll see me talk about the different priority levels and what it does. The lower the number, the more control a priority has. Like a priority of 12 is a higher priority than a 16, which means something written at a priority of 12 or above will actually override anything written at a lower priority. This being an LCT loop, I always try to do a lot of my priorities. I usually set them on about 12, and the reason I do that is for troubleshooting purposes. If I'm ever trying to go through my logic to figure out what's going on with the system and I see that something is written at a priority of 12, I automatically know that it's coming from an LCT control system somewhere in the system. So now that I have that selected, I hit my OK, and I'm just going to do the same for the rest of these. You can see that it shows the priority of 12 right there. If you wanted to change one of these priorities, what you would have to do is just go in and break that connection. You can see it highlighted there, or you can just click on one of them and highlight it, hit the delete button, and it'll go away. So now I'm going to come down here, get the last one, same thing, set it at priority 12. And I've already got trends and things set up on these analog values, so when the information is changed, then it will actually shift that previous consumption value into those analog values. Okay, now we're coming back up here and we've got to do a little bit more of what we need here. Okay, the control block, the thing that I want out of the control block, since I'm going to be doing some comparison, is I want the equal block. I'm going to pull this in here and I'm going to be comparing X equal to Y. Okay, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing in this block. If I double click in here, I do have the option of being able to change the type of block that this is. I do not need to change that. That's exactly what I want, but for some reason if I grab the wrong one and I make my connections, instead of deleting it and having to remake them, I can double click in there and actually change that. Now my constant value is right here at 0. I'm going to be putting that into the differential input. So again, I'm going to come right here where this blue square is. You can see that value, or you can see my mouse change. I'm going to click once it does, and then I'm going to drag that up to my differential. All right, I'm going to release it once it connects there, and there we go. Something else that I want to go ahead and bring out here is I'm going to go up to my Boolean tab here, because the logic that we get out of here, I need it to be the opposite when it's in its normal state than what we're going to be getting. I'm going to grab the not, and then I'm going to drag it out into my panel as well. And basically what this is going to be doing is it's going to be doing a comparison, and then it is going to be, once it's equal, that would be true. I don't need it to stay true, I need it to be able to stay false. Once I have the not block out here from my Boolean selection, I am going to go ahead and make my connections on each of these meters. Again, it's the same. It gives me that priority array. I'm going to set that to 12. Go to the next one, click it, drag it, set that to 12. And let's pull this out here to where I can see just a little clearer. And the neater you keep this, the easier it will be to troubleshoot if you have to go back to it for any reason. So let's drag this back up. I'm actually going to scoot these over a little, so I'm just going to highlight all of them and pull them over slightly. And that's going to give me just a little bit more room. Plus it's going to allow me to show you all a little better how this functions. Okay, now that I have that there, I'm simply going to come out of my comparator block, and I am going to connect that to my NOT gate to where that will flip. Now, just for demonstrations, what I am actually going to do is I'm going to come out of the minutes tab here. All right, I have hours, minutes, years, month, that sort of thing. And I'm going to come out of the minute. I'm going to bring that over. I'm going to go into my X. And what this is basically going to do is create a pulse. I'm going to then come back again to my minute option, and I'm going to click it again, and I'm going to go down here to my delay. Okay, this is going to give it just a couple second delay, and the value that it puts out is going to be briefly different, and that's what's going to give me my pulse here. Okay, so what I want to do now that I've got this done, just to show you all, I am going to pull this up. I'm going to fit it in the window, and I want to show you exactly what it does. Okay, once I hit that save button, you're going to see this go from true to false. I'll try to walk through it, but it does it fairly rapidly, but we'll see what we get. I'm going to press that save button, and I want you to notice what this does. If you look down on the bottom of the screen, you're going to see the server time that we have on the system currently. And right there, you see it populated 40, and then here it's at 0. That is false, since those two values are currently not equal. It then flips to true here, which is basically a pulse out to these. Once that delay, once that changes there, that goes true, and then this goes to false, and that previous value is written into here. Of course, these did not really have any time to capture anything, but you can kind of get the idea of what it was doing. Okay, very simple, very straightforward. Now, there's still something else that we need to do. Okay, these 3 meters here, I want to be able to capture a total, not just these individual points. And there again, guys, this is something that you can use for different things, for various different things, depending on what you're trying to do in your system. All right, I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to press my edit button, and I want to be able to do some math to add these up. Okay, the first thing that I need to do, I need to be able to have somewhere to put these values. Okay, so I'm going to go over here back to my folder, and even though I am in edit mode here, I can highlight that folder again. I can go up to Insert, and I'm going to select Object, and then it is going to give me my window here momentarily. If it doesn't lock up and crash, I'm sure that if many of you guys have done this for long, you've had that happen. I'm going to select Analog Value because that's what I want. I'm going to hit Next. I'm going to make sure that that's where I want it to go. I'm going to hit Next again. And it's going to give me an option to name it. And of course, give it a name. And learn to spell. So now, I'm also, that I've got that entered, I'm just going to highlight it just to save myself some trouble. Control C, and I'll use that again here in a few minutes. I'm going to hit Next, and I'm going to change the units for this. Okay, I'm going to change this to kW per hour, something just from so many times I've done this, I can hit the L button twice, and it's going to start me to the top of the L's, but if I go up just a couple, right there's my kWh. So if I just hit that, make sure I hit the right one, hit Next, hit Finish. I'm now going to be given the option to add trends and that sort of thing, and that's what I'm going to do here, is I'm going to add a trend. So I'm going to hit Next on the trends, and it's going to take just a moment to populate. This is just basically the attribute, which is exactly what I want it to be. I'm going to hit Next, and it's going to bring me to this window here. So what I'm going to do now, where I had pressed the Control C earlier, right up here under the name, I'm just going to double click and highlight all this and get rid of it. Okay, we still want to know what this is going to be. Where I hit the Control C earlier, I'm going to now press Control V, and it's going to paste that in there for me. That way the trend name matches that object. I do want to save this to the server. Okay, so what I'm going to do here on the repository enabled, I want to set that to true. And I want to capture this usage every hour, so that's going to be 3,600 seconds. So I'll just put a 3 in front of that. We got our 3,600 seconds. And just like that, I have now created another object and a trend for that object. Okay, here is that analog value that I just created. Now I want to get it out into my window. So again, I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to go down to my attributes. I'm going to grab my output. Since I'm going to be writing to that value, I'm going to grab that output reference. I'm going to grab it, drag it into my window, just like this. Okay? Now, there is that value. Now we need to go back up since we're going to be doing some calculations. I'm going to grab my Math tab, and it's going to be simple addition. I'm grabbing the plus. I'm going to drag it into my window, just like that. But we have a problem. I only have 2 inputs here, but I've got 3 points that I need to add. How do I resolve that? Very simple. I'm simply going to double click into this and try it again. Here we go. It gives me the option to select multiple inputs. So here I'm just going to simply add an additional input, hit OK, and here we go. Make my connections just like you'd seen me do previously. There's the first one. Here's the second one. And the third one. Now I'm going to take that output from that, and I'm going to write it into that analog value, again at a priority of 12. Okay? Now once I have that, I am going to press that save button, and what it will do, if it has captured any more data, is it will add them up and then write that total into this value here. You can see there, we're not really capturing a lot of the data, and currently that is still on every minute. You know, that's not what we need for that. So we are going to be changing that as well. But this will write that total from each of those meters, that value, into this 1 point. Now, while we're here, and just so I don't forget, I'm going to go ahead and make my change on this and show you how you can break that connection and change it if you need to. So I get here, I'm going to scroll up, I'm going to highlight this. Now that that's highlighted in blue, I'm just going to hit the delete button. And that breaks the connection. Same here, highlight that, hit the delete button. Very simple. And now, since I want this to reset hourly, I'm going to go up to my hourly option and make my connections from there. Again, these meters currently right now, there's virtually no demand on some of them. We've got a lot going on with meter projects right now, so we're not going to be seeing a lot of demand on these. I'm going to hit save, and now this is finished. But one thing that you want to make sure that you do whenever you do any kind of programming like this, or something that I like to do, is make sure you save it. You make a backup of it. You know, if you are running SCT, run SCT on the individual device. Now, one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to right click, and I am going to select archive. I'm going to go to commands right here, and then archive. That way it's going to write all of that to the memory in the NAE. Just to show you a little bit more about how the calculations can work, here is another one where I'm doing monthly, and you can see here the addition of these meters. This is basically the identical thing that we did down at the bottom here, you know, the math that we did here. But you can see here what it is. Simple addition block writing into a total monthly right here. Very simple, very useful depending on what you're doing. There's other ways of doing this. There's other ways of using this type of control. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, if you were to use an even or odd block up here, come out of here and do a comparison, you could actually use this to switch lead lag or just a whole host of other things. Guys, this is just another video that I wanted to do to show you all some more about how to use LCT within Metasys. If you have any questions, leave those down in the comments below. Let me know if you ever do any kind of programming using the LCT feature in Metasys. Also, guys, I wanted to take a minute just to say a thank you to the Patreons who support this channel. I really appreciate your help, guys. You know, I'm really glad that you are there, that you are helping to keep this channel going. If any of you guys are out there who are interested in supporting this channel, you can find the link down in the description below. Also, be sure to check out the other links down in the description. There's some tools and other things down there that you may find useful. It does kind of help support the channel as well. It costs you nothing, but it does help out what we do here. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Let me hear from you. Leave any questions down in the comments below, and I'll try to get as many as I can. And we'll see you next time.